Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. So today we're diving into a really fascinating text that sets up this, well, a massive clash, basically, between our everyday classical intuition and the very foundations of modern physics. We're looking at a source that directly challenges how we understand the movement of light. It pits the highly intuitive mechanical world of Isaac Newton right up against the seemingly bizarre rules laid out by Albert Einstein. If you've ever found yourself thinking that modern physics just feels wildly counterintuitive, well, the source we're unpacking today argues that maybe it really shouldn't be. Let's just jump right in. The text actually hooks us right off the bat with this brilliant little thought experiment. Imagine you're just bouncing a simple rubber ball against a wall. It hits the wall, bounces right back to your hand. Behaves exactly like you'd expect, right? But hold on a second. You have to remember you're standing on a planet that is literally hurtling through space at a blinding speed. So the question the text poses is this. If a physical object, like a regular ball, behaves completely normally on this speeding rock, why in the world shouldn't light behave exactly the same way? And that brings us to Section 1, the bouncing ball experiment and the rules of classical mechanics. Okay, consider this staggering number. 30 kilometers per second. The text points out that the Earth is rocketing around the sun at this speed, and that's not even counting the rotation of the planet itself. It's crazy fast. Yet, despite all this complex, rapid motion through the solar system, when you throw that ball against the wall, it just comes right back. There's absolutely nothing strange or mysterious about it. It perfectly follows the good old rules of classical Newtonian physics. The source uses this to brilliantly illustrate the core conflict here. On one side, you've got the bouncing ball. It's grounded, it's mechanical, and perfectly intuitive despite the Earth's crazy movement. But on the other side, we have light. The text leverages this contrast to ask a super vital question. Why can't the behavior of light just be explained using those exact same, non-strange mechanical rules? Like, why do we suddenly need this entirely different, highly complex rulebook for light when classical mechanics work so flawlessly for the ball? Which perfectly sets up Section 2, Einstein's strange foundation, a strange phenomenon. Now, let's look at another massive number, 300,000 kilometers per second, the constant speed of light. According to the text we're analyzing, these very modernist theories take this exact speed as their absolute starting point. But, and here's the author's primary grievance, they argue that this constant speed acts as a completely unexplained foundation. The source claims that modern physics just kind of starts with this phenomenon without actually solving or explaining the underlying mechanics of why light propagates this way. It's basically treated as a given, instead of a mechanical process that we actually need to figure out. To really drive this point home, the text pulls a quote directly from the founder of relativity himself, Albert Einstein. The source highlights that Einstein actually described the constant speed of light using the words merkwürdig, verblüffend, seltsam, which translates from German to strange, baffling, and odd. It's pretty fascinating how the author uses Einstein's own admission against the theory here. The argument is basically, look, if the very founder of the theory admitted that this core phenomenon was totally unsolved and baffling, why are we unquestioningly accepting theories built right on top of it? And that brings us directly to Section 3, Critique of Modernist Theories, a fragile structure. So let's walk through the really fiery arguments outlined in the source. First up, the text heavily criticizes modern theories for trying to build an entire world physics on top of a strange, totally unsolved phenomenon. It argues that modern physics just brushes past classical explanations and relies on what the author literally calls magical words. It actually goes as far as comparing this singular fixation on the speed of light to a schizophrenic mindset, someone hung up on just one single thought. And finally, the author points out that this modernist approach completely ignores fundamental mechanical questions, things like how particles actually move in tiny spaces or the real effects of centrifugal force. The text makes it very clear it views modern physics as this fragile structure that traded in logical mechanics for unexplained assumption. So, what exactly is the alternative then? Let's move to Section 4, the return of the ether, and a look back at Newton's mechanics. To grasp the author's alternative here, we really need to define Newton's ether. Historically, classical physics assumed that, well, just like sound waves need air or water to travel through, light waves must also travel through some kind of physical medium. They called this invisible, space-filling medium the ether. Now, modern physics largely threw the ether out the window after Einstein came along, but our source text mounts this incredibly passionate and honestly surprising defense of this older, highly mechanical model. The really crucial point is how the author modernizes this concept to show that it actually has logical merit. The text uses a brilliantly relatable analogy. It compares Newton's historic ether to a modern mobile phone network, a Netz for handy, as the original German playfully puts it. Think about it. Just as our mobile phones absolutely rely on an invisible network to transmit data from one place to another, Newton assumed light relied on the ether to propagate. The text argues that when you look at it this way, the ether wasn't a stupid idea at all. In fact, it was a highly logical, intuitive, and practical way to explain the actual mechanics of light. And this deep respect for classical mechanics culminates in what the source literally describes as moral outrage. The text strongly expresses that it is morally outrageous that the scientific community just discarded the entirety of perfectly functional, logically sound Newtonian physics simply because this specific proposal of the ether was allegedly refuted. The author clearly feels that throwing out a whole system of understandable mechanics just to favor baffling modern theories was a massive mistake. Which brings us to the final, overarching philosophical question derived from this fascinating text. Must physics be intuitive to be true? Does the universe actually owe us an explanation that makes sense to our mechanical, bouncing ball minds? Or is reality fundamentally strange and baffling, exactly like Einstein suggested? The source we explore today fiercely defends that intuitive mechanical approach, and it really challenges us to reconsider the foundations of what we accept as scientific truth. It's a profound paradigm clash, for sure. Hopefully, this explainer has given you a clear, structured look into this captivating debate. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll see you in the next explainer.